Right, we are now going to hear from Breadline. So Sarah has very kindly joined us this evening. Thank you so much, Sarah, as well for joining us. Sarah has very recently returned back from Moldova, where she was going to visit the Emmanuel Clinic team. So Emmanuel Clinic are supporting those in Moldova living in extreme poverty, reaching them with healthcare facilities and yeah, lots of other provisions. So thank you so much, Sarah, and over to you.
Thank you very much, Hannah, for the opportunity, really. I'm speaking on behalf of Breadline. I've just joined their staff team last month, so very, very new and straight into it with going over to Moldova in the third week of employment with them. So it's a really steep learning curve for the moment at me, just learning about all the different projects and different charities of which, I'll be working with over the coming weeks, months and years. Am I okay just to share my screen, Hannah?
Yes, that's perfect. Thank you so much, Sarah.
If it works on. Yes, to say so, Breadline, who I'm working with, our kind of motto is empowerment through partnership, and that's what we're looking to do in Moldova. Tonight, I just wanted to share with you a little bit of the overview of Breadline for those of you that may not be that familiar with it. I'm sure some of you are much more familiar than what I am, and a taste of some of the projects that we're doing, and particularly focusing on Emmanuel Clinic, as that's one of the things which Medical Mission News has been so amazing in supporting, and the work they're doing is just totally mind-blowing. And just to really ask your prayer, there's so much that needs prayer within the work that we're doing and with Moldova. So Breadline, for those of you who are not aware, it was founded in 1995. And our vision is just to be continually guided by God as we support our partners and the ventures in Moldova. So we work alongside different churches and charities. The only criteria of working alongside us is that they embody the life of Jesus Christ within their ministry. So whether that's the Emmanuel Clinic, or whether it's a Baptist church or another type of church or charity, that's what we're looking for. And I'm sure that most people here are probably aware of where Moldova is. But if you're like me, 2 months ago, I wasn't particularly aware, and I did have to do a Google when the job advert came up. And it's just a very small country, slightly larger than Belgium, but as you can see, it's just between Ukraine and Romania. Very turbulent past. It's only just recently become an independent nation. And until very recently, it was the poorest country in Europe. And then obviously we hit COVID, and there was a drought, and then war. So the drought had a major impact on Moldovans. It's a very poor country that relies very much on agriculture. And with a drought, there's no crops, there's no harvest, and then they've got no seed for the following year. So we're still in the process of that. And the country as a whole, when the war broke out, Moldova's got a population of just over 2.5 million, and over 1 million refugees have passed through Moldova, of which 115,000 still remain today. So that's a huge number of refugees for such a small country. Equally with the war, just like over here, that we had a huge increase in energy costs. Moldovans had it far more because 95% of their energy came from Ukraine. And last week when I was there, what we kept hearing time and time again from the little small farmers and businessmen is, because of the war, I can't sell. I can't sell my honey because of a war. I can't sell my goods because of a war, but now everything's undercutting it and they can't make any profit on what they're doing. So it's had a huge impact, particularly on a lot of the pastors that we're supporting in the rural communities, because a lot of those rely on those small incomes from selling the honey or for selling the eggs. And there's a great fear. You know, we often say there's a fear for tomorrow, but what I picked up, you know, last couple of weeks in Moldova is amongst the Moldovans a real fear for today, you know, not just for tomorrow. You know, what's going to happen? You know, they're only 2 hours away from Odessa, where a lot of the bombing's happening. A lot of people are very worried that it's going to spread into Moldova. As was just commented by Martin, the elections are coming up in October of this year. A lot of people are very fearful that the Russian party is going to win the elections and they'll hand Moldova back over to Russia. And it's a very real fear amongst the people, which is resulting in more Moldovans leaving the country. A lot of people were estimating that since January of this year, so in the first 4 months of this year, 10% of the population of Moldova has left, either temporarily or permanently, to go and get jobs and to earn money elsewhere. So it's a very scared country to be in, a very fearful place for a lot of people. So Breadline, we work with a huge variety of partners. One of the things I'm loving about my job is just the total differences of the projects that we're working with. So today, for instance, I've been having discussions with people about stoma bags and trying to get hold of stoma bags for people working in the rural communities. I've been having another discussion about a children's outreach in the village and just getting the food and the bread for the children. I've been talking about tractors and TMR mixing machines and different things to go within the agriculture of the farm. So it's a big variety of projects, just with a key theme of, you know, taking Jesus to people and keeping Jesus at the centre of what we do. A lot of our work is based in Danku, which is a small village about 2 hours away from the capital, where they've got a farm, cheese making project, social action projects. They have a club that supports people with special needs, particularly autism, like Down syndrome, like lots of learning difficulties. And as ever, supporting vulnerable families. We've got a mobile training team that trains up the pastors and the ministers, you know, so that they're not just reaching out socially, but they've got a good grounding in scripture and they've got that foundation so that when they go out to people, they can really share about the love of God with those they're meeting. We support in Stresen, which is about 40 minutes away from the capital, Chisinau, the charity mission, which is a centre for disabled children. And within that, they're currently building a huge centre, which will be one of a kind in Moldova. However, unfortunately, when they started to build it, it was one cost that seemed affordable. But with the war, the cost of everything going up, although they've spent now as much as what the total estimated cost of this building would be, it's going to cost a further £1.5 million just to open up the centre on the first floor to get the electrics and everything sorted. You know, and this is in a country where salaries are so low, but yet building materials are so expensive. So we're really praying for that money to come in. It's going to have lots of different rooms for occupational therapy, for sensory rooms, teaching rooms, and just a day centre for children with special needs, and also, you know, opportunities for adults with special needs to come in and get support. Because presently, one of the things that really shook me, but although this is in Europe, but there's so many people with special needs that are just locked up in a room all day because a parent or a carer has to go out to work and there is no provision for them. Breadline also supports lots of village ministries and various pastors working in rural communities, including supporting their medical needs. For instance, one pastor we were speaking to last week, he's had a major stomach operation. It's not really recovering. We were talking about this and we asked, what medication are you taking? And he went quiet and he said he's not. He's been told he's got to take this medication for 6 months, but it's £235 for the medication for 6 months. He can't afford it, so he wasn't taking it. So thank God we've been able to sort him just that small amount of money by way in Kissenew with
Sorry, Sarah, there seems to be a
coastal
bit
side
of
of
sorry, Sarah, there seems to be a little bit of technical glitch going on. I don't know if you can repeat just what you've just previously said. We've just missed about 30 seconds, sorry.
Okay, so I've probably said the Lord's Army, which is like the charismatic arm of the Orthodox Church. They're running a refugee centre in Kissenew. They're getting lots of funding for the food and that type of thing, but they've not been able to afford electricity and gas, the utilities for the building. So we've been able to support with that. A few of the people who we met last week, this beautiful lady there, she'd had a foot amputated and the surgeons had to have just like the whole leg amputated. But in a country where there's no real welfare support, we've been able to fund a local church to go in, but takes her food each week, takes her a little bit, of encouragement, a little bit of hope, so that she knows, she's got a future and she's loved and she's not alone. This gorgeous family, mum and 4 kids here in the photo. There was another one outside playing. That's one of the refugee families that have come into a rural village in Moldova. The young lad, he looks much older than he is. He's actually only 15. Community, and this one room, that's where this family are now sleeping. Again, we're supporting a local church who are going in, looking after them. The young boy has got quite a few medical needs that are quite expensive. So the church have been able to get him the medication which he needs and try and give them some kind of normality in life, make sure they're not going hungry and the children are not having to sleep on empty bellies. This here is one of the village ministries that are visiting the elderly. This lady, she sobbed when we left her, begging us, please don't leave me, don't leave me. Apparently she wasn't going to get another visitor till this couple went back the following week with the food parcel for her. What I find is beautiful about this is Ira, the young lady on the left in the blue t-shirt. She's actually a Ukrainian refugee that has come into the community, and rather than just taking handouts, she's been empowered and equipped to go out and serve the community that she's finding herself living in until the time comes she can return back to Ukraine. And this young man in that photo is Victor. You see the building on the right, the wooden building. that actually contains like the hole in the floor, his toilet, and the wash bowl where his sister has to wash him and look after all of his needs. We thank God that, thanks to the church there, you know, Victor is an amazing Christian man. He's got such a simple faith in Jesus. And the church are currently in the process of, at the back of his house, building an accessible toilet, an accessible washroom, so that his sister, who's getting on in years, will be able to help care for his needs as he gets older as well. You know, just the breadth of the work of Breadline, it just blows my mind away, just the differences and the support, you know, of this gentleman. Again, he was gifted the wheelchair by people. Previously, before he had wheelchairs, he was just on the floor and pulling himself around. But as mentioned, in Moldova, it can be difficult getting wheelchairs, but he's so thankful that he has got this one. This young girl, cerebral palsy, again, her grandma, her mum died of AIDS. She got AIDS through a blood transfusion with contaminated blood. Her mum died when the young girl was 2, and grandma has had to take on her and 2 other children. She has to walk an hour to get to school. The young girl can't obviously walk very far, but she gets pushed in a toddler pushchair, like a McLaren buggy, of which most people would have for their 6-7-month-old children over here. We're just praying for the right wheelchair that we can source for her so that she can get transported to and from school, rather than grandma having to say, well, days when it rained, she doesn't go to school. But beautiful, such a joyous young girl. And then Emmanuel Clinic, which just blew my mind away. You know, I've previously been involved within Pakistan and like Philippines and Nigeria, and I was expecting a very small clinic, maybe somebody's house converted and just a changed room. But this was a huge project that just, you know, sharing the gospel of Jesus with everybody that comes through the doors. Over 60 members of staff, from, you know, cardiologists, oncologists, every ologist you could think of, and they're all there working to serve Jesus throughout the whole of Moldova. That map there just shows the different areas in which Emmanuel Clinic is working. They've got the main clinic. They also do the mobile medical clinics, home care project, where they go and take medical care to those that are bedbound and those who are dying. One of the things that the lady Eugenia who runs it kept saying she'd love to open a hospice where people can come and die in dignity, rather than at home, alone, bedbound, and very limited support. Also medical, spiritual education. You know, everything they do is just about Jesus and sharing the love of Jesus. And also food packages for the needy, because so many of the people who come into Emmanuel Clinic, they've not fed, and recovering from illness is so hard if you're not getting the nutrition and the needs that you need. And thankfully, especially, Eugenia just kept saying how thankful she was to yourselves for making the mobile clinics in particular possible. You know, pre-2023, there was 16 to 20 clinics each year with 3,000 patients seen annually. Last year, there was 38 clinics, which these are run voluntary by the staff on a Saturday after they've had the working week. They're leaving the town, you know, the capital, sometimes at 4 or 5 a.m. and we're not getting back till 9 o'clock at night. And that's these staff's day off, because they just love sharing Jesus so much and just making sure people of Moldova, you know, have got the health needs met. When they go into the villages, for working partnerships with the local churches. Often, you know, the clinics are held in the church. You know, I have 2 here, little photos are of in a local church of where the clinic was held. the sharing the gospel in partnership with those churches. So people are coming in, and it's not just about the physical health, but also about the spiritual health. And we're just doing such an amazing work that, you know, they couldn't do without your partnership and without your support. You know, I know another thing she was telling us about, principal of a clinic, that I think Grev had sourced some bandages, and they just kept saying, these bandages, they're like magic. You put them on and it's like the wound heals in front of our eyes, because they've been given some bandages that have got, you know, current, not just a gauze dressing that goes on, and when they take it off, it rips off the healed skin again. And they've just been blown away by the support of yourselves and everything that you've done to help them with these mobile clinics. So I'll just say a huge thank you for all that you're doing. And obviously prayer underpins everything. So my kind of main prayer points for people, you know, other things that you might have picked up, is just mainly peace in Ukraine, so that the country and the whole area can stabilise, for the economy to improve, more workers to stay in Moldova. You know, when it comes to the gospel, they say that the harvest is plentiful and the labourers are few, but farmers are finding that physically as well as spiritually. And also for more funding, because with the war, everything has increased in price so drastically, but the giving hasn't increased as much. So the needs are getting more, the costs are going up, but the funding is not covering the same as what it did. Also pray for better access to affordable medications and equipment, and just for more people to know Jesus, because that's why we do what we do. And we're just praying for more people to stand in prayer and financial support for Moldova. And finally, this is a bit of a selfish kind of one. I'm in a job share with a gentleman called Stuart, and just pray that we just quickly settle into our roles, and just to be able to build up strong relationships between like partners, funders and supporters, both current ones and ones that are yet to come on board. You know, Di, that did the job previously, she had an amazing relationship with so many people. She set such an amazing example, but we just want to continue and build upon that work. And just thank you so much for the opportunity of being here tonight with you.
Thank you so much for that, Sarah. And I'm so sorry for landing you in the deep end, as you've only just started your role and making you share everything. But it's so lovely. It's so lovely seeing pictures from the visit. I think with Moldova, it's, you know, when we think of Europe, we don't think of there being a great deal of poverty. But I know the photos that we see that Breadline send through, where people literally have nothing, it's heartbreaking. So yeah,
it was just seeing where Victor kind of has to shower and use the toilet, and you know, his sister's quite elderly, and yet she's having to kind of move him around and pull him about. It just feels so unfair. But
yeah, I think it's beyond what any of us can imagine being possible as well, really, isn't it? Especially in terms of Europe. I think it's not something that you think of, but it was so lovely to see the picture of the Ukrainian refugee that's become part of the team as well. So thank you for sharing that. It's lovely to see it being full circle in a way.
It's brilliant. So. And the thing is, she can't speak Romanian yet, but because all the elderly people speak Russian from the previous Soviet Union days, she's able to communicate with them in Russia. She's beautiful, so nice with them.
No, it's lovely seeing that. Well, thank you so much for sharing. It's a lot to be praying for as well. So thank you for that. I'm just going to